Angelique Chengelis, Detroit Free Press, covers Michigan, Big Ten champion Michigan Wolverines. Joins us on 365 Sports. Thank you, Angelique. Thanks for your time. You just finished, I guess, wrapping up the interviews. You were a little bit worried about whether we could get you just in time, and thanks for your time. How you doing today?
Well, I'm doing well. I'm just hoping the Michigan marching band is just to my left, so I hope they don't break out into the victors or something while we're talking. But all is well. They just Michigan just finished practice. We talked to a couple players, and this is the last push until game week finally upon us.
How refreshing is it that they don't have to ask about when are they going to win big again? Like, how much does that help just to get that off the plate?
Well, it's now they're getting, with last year fluke. Can you do it again? Can you go to Columbus? Can you finally beat Michigan State, which has won the last two? So it's like, I think that there's still the sense of some people wondering if last year was a fluke and can they do it again? So I think that they're saying all the right things. The players are that, they want to kind of carry that chip on the shoulder that they had from that just god-awful 2020 season that they used in 2021, and they still have that. They said that, they still have a lot to prove. They got last by Georgia in the playoff game, so they want to better that. They want to win it all, and they're saying all the right things. So I guess we'll see soon when the season starts what's going on with this team.
Will they continue to use the two quarterback system with McNamara and McCarthy, or will it shift in any way?
Well, that's really the question, and Jim Harbaugh hasn't really given a solid answer on that. He says it's this, or this, and this is McNamara starting and J.J. McCarthy's backup, or the second this is J.J. McCarthy starting and Case the backup. But I thought all along that Case starts the season and they play J.J. liberally, and I asked Harbaugh last week if it would be like a Brady Henson kind of thing that everyone in Michigan saw in the late 90s with Tom Brady and Drew Henson, and it was Tom Brady starting the game, and then Henson coming in. He was scripted, and he sort of bristled at that and went off on this tangent about people saying that you have two quarterbacks means you don't have one. That's just people parroting a cliche, and he might be right. So I think his point is they have two really good quarterbacks. They feel really good about it. And I think his point overall is that they will continue competing into this season. The first four home games are at home. I think that gives them a real luxury there. And I think come Iowa, that time, I think you're going to see someone take over and at least become the leader in the clubhouse as the starter.
Angelique, I watched Alan Bowman a bit when he was at Texas Tech. Did he ever really factor into the quarterback competition after transferring up there?
No, and it's interesting you mentioned him. I was talking to some people yesterday, and they're just sort of like still puzzled why he came to Michigan. He has not been a factor. I mean, in fact, they're looking at a quarterback out of California. Warren Davis is their third quarterback. They're third on the depth chart, and I'm not sure where Allen factors in there. But everything they talk to people about him, he's great in the locker room. He's a great teammate. So in that sense, they're happy he's there. But it's always been interesting. I've never actually had a chance to talk to him, and that's one thing I'd really like to know is what was the purpose of this? You think everybody transfers because they want to play right away, and I don't think that was his motivation. He certainly wants to play, but I don't think that was his end goal.
Paul asked you about the quarterback situation, the rotation or whatever, but bottom line is their bread and butter is what they did last year, running the football. How much more balanced can they possibly be this year, or do they have to be balanced at all?
Well, I mean, they do have really good running backs back, and Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, who was a freshman last year, but they lost to Tom Haskins, and I'm just saying, I think he's a bigger loss than anyone ever really talked about. I mean, he and Corum call themselves thunder and lightning, and they don't have that thunder right now. They don't have that kind of that back to get to those hard yards, and they're still trying to identify the third back. I think if you're going to look at, you've got two offensive coordinators here, and that's going to be interesting how they call the game. I think it'll be throwing more to coaches of the offensive line, ultimately being the play caller, but they've got this is the most talented group of receivers I've seen at Michigan in a long time, and I've been covering the team for a long time. And they have a lot of different types of receivers. They've got Ronnie Bell back, who was their leading receiver in 19 and 20 and was hurt last year in the first game. So I think I think people think that you've got J.J. McCarthy with the big arm. Obviously, he's mobile. He gives the offense a little bit more of an X factor. That he's the guy who can make things happen with all of these receivers that they have, and not to mention a couple really good tight ends, Eric All and Luke Shoemaker. So they've got a ton of talent. You think they're going to run the ball, but they've got all this talent. I think they've got to air it out at times, too.
Now, one of the things that you can't say about them is that they are weak along the lines at all. They are dudes on both sides. Is that maybe what gives Jim Harbaugh confidence to kind of say the things about, like, you know, he doesn't seem to care which quarterback is in or not worry about having that other running back because either one of them is probably going to be upright most of the time, and then on the other side of the ball, they're going to keep the other quarterback in a panic most of the time?
For sure on the offensive line, and I think they won the Joe Moore Award last year, but this has been an upgrade for them with Oluwatimi transferring from Virginia. He was a Remington finalist, one of the three finalists, and he's taken over at center, and he just really meshed with this offensive line and the team very quickly. They have a new player at right tackle in Trente Jones. So this offensive line is I'm certain better than it was last year, and that's no knock on the guys who were there, but there's more talent. On the defensive line, it's going to be really interesting. I mean, like, where are they going to get the production that the Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo provided? I mean, they combined for 25 sacks, and it's been interesting to listen to these defensive players talk about how they wanted to be all 11, not just have the defense go through two guys. And I think that the defensive line will be good. I'm not sure. I think people should not have their expectations up. Like, you know, they shouldn't think, oh, who's the next Aiden, who's the next Ojabo, because that's not going to happen. But I think this is a pretty good group, and they should be solid on the defensive line too. But offensive line is definitely way up there.
Angelique, you know, there's questions, like, we cover Baylor pretty closely, and there's questions that I have that, like, everybody that follows along may not necessarily have. You cover the team as close as possible. What is your biggest question mark still remaining for the Wolverines?
Well, I'm still wondering about the linebackers. I mean, I think that they're back, and the players say that they're really good. You know, they've got a lot of good options, and there's a lot of really young talent. I mean, there's some freshmen who I think are going to come in and make their mark on defense. But no one has really talked a lot about the linebackers. And Junior Colson's back, and he's very good. I'm just not sure. I think that's been a little bit of a weakness over the last couple of years. And I'll be curious to see how much of a step forward they take at linebacker. So,
I got a question. The defensive coordinator now at Michigan was with the Ravens. Mm-hmm. The former Michigan defensive coordinator from 1 year, Mike McDonald, had been with the Ravens. He's now back with Baltimore. Did Jim and John get on the fall and do like we'll swap this guy for this guy?
Well, I mean, Jesse Minter was at Vanderbilt last year as the defensive coordinator, but I do, you know, you do wonder how those people work and how they get this all figured out. And, you know, I think for John Harbaugh, it was advantageous to have Mike McDonald here and to get his feet wet calling the defense and having the responsibility that goes with being a coordinator. And you know, I never thought Mike McDonald would be in the college game very long. It was a little foreign to him. He was a pro guy. So I think maybe some people were shocked when he went back to the NFL after a year. But I thought Jesse Minter was the obvious choice. I mean, he and Mike McDonald speak the same language in terms of defensive scheme and verbiage, and I think that's what has made it really seamless for the defensive players this year to have a new coordinator, but doesn't feel new. A little bit different personality, but everything else is the same. So they feel like it's been completely seamless.
Angelique, as always, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Glad that you had a chance to jump on. I know you had some interviews. It worked out perfectly. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me on. Have a good season.
You too. Angelique Chengelis from the Detroit Free Press covering Michigan.